Greetings. Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. During the college football season, this podcast highlights draftable players which match up. This specific episode focuses on NC State against Tennessee. Our goal is to cover the draftables, the players that are 1 to 400 on our initial big boards, hoping to show which players are improving draft stock right before the Senior Bowl season or Senior Bowl kicks off draft season. None of the players discussed have officially declared for the NFL draft as of the time of this recording. So let's dive into it. I'm excited to talk about Tennessee against NC State. A couple of reasons why. And it's at the very top for both teams. So James Pearce, everybody's talking about him. Is he going to be the first player drafted, right? So we have a legitimate possibility James Pearce is player 1 off the board, okay? Is Pearce edge 1 or edge 2 in this draft class? That discussion is about to start. But to me, what I like to do is look at NC State, and the best player in NC State from a draftable standpoint is Anthony Belton, the offensive tackle. Okay, so right now on my board, Belton has a day 3 grade. Okay, so if we look and he's matched up against either James Pearce or if you look further down the list, Omari Thomas from Tennessee, does he improve his draft stock by not letting Pearce blow him up? Now, obviously, Tennessee has some flexibility. They can move Pearce to the other side of the line, things of that nature. So just because Pearce has a good game doesn't mean Belton had a bad game. But on the reps where Pearce is matched up against Belton, that's something we need to pay attention to from a draft standpoint for Anthony Belton, because that's going to tell us how high should Belton go. Now, there's also discussion. I've heard some people say, well, Belton is probably going to more likely be a guard at the NFL level. He can also play left tackle, right tackle. So at minimum, Belton could have a career in the NFL as your swing tackle, backup offensive lineman. And again, I can think of plenty of players that have made a career off of being a swing tackle for 8 to 10 years. So whether Belton is a starting caliber tackle or not, some of that will depend upon how does he handle playing against an elite football player like James Pearce. Okay, but let's continue to focus and look at the next matchup, which would be John Campbell and David Vann. So we have an offensive tackle from Tennessee, and we have a defensive lineman from NC State, and they are matching up. Now, right now, I have draftable grades in both Campbell and Vann. Right now, they would be mid-day 3. So they would be closer to round 4 than they would be round 7, but we still have a lot of football to play this year. Okay, so let's pay attention to that matchup. But again, we can keep looking, and this just screams great matchup. We have 2 wide receivers at Tennessee, Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, and we have a corner on NC State in Aiden White. Now, right now, I do not have a draftable grade on Aiden White, but he is just outside. So I have Aiden White in the low 300s. Okay, but between now and draft day, there's usually about 75 players that are on the board that go back to school. So player 300 could easily become player 225 once we get draft declarations coming out here in about 4 months. So Aiden White can do a really good job of improving his stock based on how he matches up against the Tennessee wide receivers. Because whichever wide receiver he matches up with from Tennessee is likely going to be a player that's either going to be drafted or will be a priority UDFA. So right now with McCoy and White, I have them as late 7th round picks. So they're within the range to say they theoretically should be drafted, but they're not at the top of the list, right, so to speak, right? And then if we look further, we have some offensive linemen from Tennessee, specifically Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins. We've also covered John Campbell. So let's pay attention to the Tennessee offensive line, see how those players do as well. Okay, so that's going to conclude the summary of this matchup. We'd just like to point out a couple of things. My name is Jim. You can find me on Twitter at NFL Draft Fanatic. There is no I in Fanatic on Twitter. Okay, so that would be my Twitter right there. Okay, NFLDraftFanatics.com, the host of this podcast, is also the home of the only interactive mock draft simulator in existence. What does that mean? That means fans, the people listening to this podcast, control the big boards. Okay, the fans control how the players are rated. The fans control the big board. The way that you do that is by doing mock drafts. Okay, pay attention, subscribe to this channel. If you need to see how the boards move, there will be other podcasts on this channel to show how the boards move. Okay, and again, would like to close out with saying thank you for listening to this podcast. Please like, follow, subscribe. We are releasing podcasts like this daily to cover college football matchups. And as draft season progresses, we will cover the players in more detail. Remember, every day is draft day if you have the right attitude. My name is Jim with NFLDraftFanatics.com. Thank you very much and have a great day.